Yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You may want to move forward as far as you possibly can so that you can hear. Unfortunately, the PA system, which normally works very well, is not working this evening. Can everybody hear me? Yes. How about in the back row? No problem. Okay. Then we're gonna proceed. This is the April 7th meeting of the Stonington Planning and Zoning Commission. Let the meeting reflect that we called the meeting to order, or let the minutes reflect that we called the meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. We have one regular member absent this evening, David, and I think we have Gary Belkey also absent this evening. So, Mary Ellen, I know it's your turn to be seated, but I'm not sure amongst our other two alternates which alternate was seated last.
Oh, so it's your turn. Last time.
Oh, well, I wasn't here for that, so that's.
Oh, okay.
So it will be Lindsay. Perk Fairchild will be seated this evening in place of Dave Resendez, and Mary Ellen Marleska will be seated in place of Gary Belkey, who is absent this evening. What's the Commission's pleasure on item 3, minutes from March 17th, 2026?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from meeting number 1819 from March 17, 2026 as submitted.
Second.
Motion by Ryan to approve. Do we have a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Meeting minutes are approved. Public comment. This is an opportunity on the agenda for anyone who wishes to address the Commission on any item that's not on the agenda. Repeat, not on the agenda. If there isn't anyone, we'll move on to the next item, correspondence. Since we have two members absent, I'd like to move the election of a secretary to the next meeting without objection. And we have correspondence with regard to PZ 2522SD Brazillo from S. Shorencia extension request, and that should be in your packets. Any reports from the Commission this evening? Staff reports? Nothing?
Just that we have a housing seminar coming up, Seahawks hosting it. It will be May 20th. Not sure if you guys got the agenda. Not sure if you guys got the agenda or invite yet.
We did, just
okay.
received it, yes.
Okay, so just making that note that.
Yeah, those have been excellent in the past, and I plan to attend. It's available online also, right? By
Yes,
Zoom?
it will be recorded and on the YouTube.
What kind of seminar is it?
It's a seminar for the housing bill. It's mainly for commissioners and the council or board of selectmen. In this case, in Southeastern Connecticut Council of Governments will be doing a presentation. It is open to the public. It's at the Human Services Building at 6:30, May 20th.
And who's sponsoring
CCOG. So, yep.
Zoning enforcement and violations, those are in your package. Administrative review, we have no items for administrative review, and both items of old business are moved to April 21st.
I'm just really quickly checking at our last meeting, we talked about getting a report on the Pine Street house.
Yes,
wall.
we did.
Did we get any? Like,
We didn't get anything. We didn't get anything in writing, and we should have something that's emailed out to everybody in the next few days. I know they're speaking with the town attorney about that.
Okay.
Also under old business, we have item C, PZ 26095PA, CAM, Stonington Cemetery Association, W. Sweeney, and S. Shorencia. Site plan application and coastal area management review for modifications approved under PZ 0531 SUP and CAM. Property is located at 352 North Main Street, Stonington. I see you're both here this evening. I apologize that everybody's got to speak up. I normally don't have any problem projecting.
I'll try to speak so that people in the audience can hear.
And fine, I'd prefer if you do that so that everybody can hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. For the record tonight, my name is Bill Sweeney. I'm a land use attorney and a partner at the law firm of Tobin Carberry over in New London, Connecticut. And as always, it's a pleasure to appear before you. I appear before you tonight on behalf of the Stonington Cemetery Association, which has submitted a site plan application and an application for a coastal site plan review for the expansion of the Stonington Cemetery across from its current location on North Main Street to the so-called West Grounds property, which is located at 352 North Main Street. Joining me tonight is Sergio Terenzia. Mr. Terenzia is a licensed professional engineer with Terenzia & Associates. I also have Kyle Berg, who's president of the Stonington Cemetery Association, and I have a number of members of the board of the association, including former Congressman and First Selectman Simmons, who's joining us tonight. As some of you may be aware, the West Grounds property, and we're in the process of putting up a plan right now. The West Grounds property is approximately 2.5 acres in size. It has been historically maintained as an agricultural field at the corner of Route 1 and North Main Street. If you've been out to the site, you know that its eastern extent has been long maintained as an agricultural field. Its western extent, adjacent to Quantiduck Cove, is forested with thick natural vegetation. Here's a map of the site and the existing conditions. The Stonington Cemetery, which is across the street on North Main Street, was first established as a family burial ground back in 1754. And it was later incorporated as a public non-sectarian cemetery in 1849. That cemetery, which encompasses about 18 acres of developed cemetery grounds at 345 North Main Street, is listed on the National Register. The Stonington Cemetery Association also owns this cemetery. It's responsible for the operation of the cemetery. It's responsible for its maintenance. It's responsible for operating income for the cemetery in the form of donations, selling plots, and burial fees. And they also get a lot of grant funding to run it as well. Back 25 years ago now, in 2001, the association purchased this property, what we call the West Grounds property, for the purpose of expansion of the Stonington Cemetery. In fact, in 2005, the association came before this commission and at that time obtained a special use permit to convert and change the use of this property from agricultural to cemetery. And they also got a site plan approved at that time for a cemetery expansion. That site plan was fairly extensive. It involved a tremendous import of fill to the site. It also included development down to the waterfront as well with walking trails. It was a very intensive design in 2005, but as you might be aware, this project never went anywhere. It never actually took place. It was never actually implemented. Now, the special permit that was granted in 2005, that special permit is perpetual. It runs with the land. It doesn't terminate. It doesn't expire. But as the 2005 project was never actually implemented, the site plan that went with the special permit has expired. It's no longer valid. And so that's why we're here tonight. The Stonington Cemetery Association would like to now, 20 years later, actually move forward with the expansion with a slightly different design, a design that's far less intensive, that maintains the historic pastoral nature of the site and respects sort of the land form in a lot better approach. So they've worked with Terenzia engineers over the last year, and the association has laid out a different plan than was originally approved in 2005. This plan is much more modest. It's appropriately scaled for the expansion of the cemetery. It has designated plot areas within the existing field, and that's going to be used for both full casket and also cremation burials. Do you have a picture of the actual site plan that we put forward? Thanks.
Hold on, I'm going to switch it over. Just give me 1 second. Just going to change the share. This is the site plan that's before you tonight.
Mr. Terenzia is going to walk you through the details of the site plan in a second, but I just want to highlight a couple key things. Again, the west ground property is zoned RR80 for the vast majority of it. Only a very tiny sliver of the waterfront along the cove is actually zoned RC120. In the RR80, cemeteries are a special permitted use. That special use permit is in effect. It's been recorded. It's set for the property for the last 20 years. But again, we're here for the site plan approval only tonight for this design. Every burial site that we're proposing at this cemetery expansion is going to be included. It's going to use a closed container, so every set of remains will be in a sealed container or coffin, and then placed within a concrete liner or a concrete vault. This is not a green burial site. Green burials are allowed in the state of Connecticut. Green burials are interment without those concrete vaults and liners, but there is no green burials proposed for the west ground site. We're using crematory vessels and coffins in concrete liners or concrete vaults. It's the only way we were using this site. As Mr. Terenzia will describe, we do have some gravel access driveway proposed to get access to the site. We have vehicular and pedestrian gates to the cemetery area for access. We have grass paths and gathering areas in the new cemetery. But what's really important is we have little to no impervious cover. The idea, the design concept here is to maintain the pastoral and agricultural feel of this site and keep it that beautiful sort of rural look. We don't want a cemetery that looks out of place. We want it to fit into the existing landscape. Under your zoning regulations, there is no parking requirement for cemeteries. There is no additional parking being proposed in this expansion area. Parking for visitors of the cemetery will be served and provided at the cemetery, the main cemetery location directly across the street. We provided a crosswalk across North Main Street to accommodate pedestrian movement back and forth from that parking area to the expansion area as well. There are no utilities involved in this project. There's no water, there's no sewer, there is no lighting either. The idea is this is open from dusk till dawn till dusk. There's no night activities, there's no need for that. It's a very rural area, we want to keep it rural. Again, the intent of the plan that we're going to present to you tonight is to keep this site in a pastoral setting and really consistent with the historic agricultural character of this entire area of the community. We will also talk a little bit about drainage. The whole site right now pitches to the southwest, right now to the southwestern corner of the field. This is a drainage pattern that even after development for interment sites, we're going to maintain that drainage to the southwest corner. And we are proposing some very minimal plantings along the southern property line to provide some privacy screening to the adjacent neighbor. We're also doing some very minor grading around the inland wetland area that's down in that location, just to alleviate perceived drainage problems that the neighbor has expressed some concern about. The project plans before you tonight were reviewed and they were approved by the Inland Wetlands Commission back in February of this year. Finally, the site is within the coastal area management zone, but the project plans preserve in its entirety that wooded vegetated buffer on the western half of the site down to the cove. Back in 2005, we had a lot of work in that area, including trails and sitting areas. That is not part of our plan here in 2026. We're keeping that vegetative buffer to keep a good protective buffer to the cove. As such, there is no drainage going into the cove. We have no impact on coastal resources. And so therefore, again, this very low impact, low intensity land use has really no coastal implications. And we believe we're consistent with the coastal area management zone requirements. Finally, we did ask for several waivers with our site plan tonight. There is a waiver of the formal landscape plan. Again, we're trying to maintain as much of the natural vegetation on the site as possible. The internal traffic circulation plan, we basically have a gravel access road for access to the grave sites. We have a waiver request for a signage plan and the lighting plan. We have neither proposed for this site. Again, it's to keep the site very low impact, very low intensity, keep the natural, historic, agricultural feel of the property. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Trenzia just to walk you through the site plan, and then we'll be available if you have any questions tonight about the design. Thank you.
I'm just going to bring us back to the existing conditions plan so I can start there just to give you a little bit of the lay of the land before we get into the proposed development. For the record, Sergio Terenzia with Terenzia and Associates, offices at 99 Mechanic Street, Pawcatuck, Connecticut. The application that's before you this evening was prepared by my office in my responsible charge. The site survey, which is up on the is up right now on the screen, was prepared by my survey manager, Mark Cassianos. He is a licensed surveyor in the state of Connecticut, and I am licensed in an engineer in the state of Connecticut. The plan before you right now is one that Attorney Sweeney alluded to in the first part of his presentation. Property is located at 352 North Main Street. It's on the corner of Stonington Road, US Route 1, and North Main Street. If you've driven by lately, you can see a bunch of pipes sticking out of the ground because we did some testing. Hopefully those will be going away soon upon approval of this, and we can start moving on to developing the site and including the plats. You can see the site generally grades off to from northeast to southwest. There's a pocket wetland on the southwest. That's where Attorney Sweeney said where the water tends to accumulate in that area. There's a C-series flagging of wetlands. We did go to the Wetlands Commission with our plan, and we have obtained a wetlands permit for the proposed development, which we are presenting to you this evening. You can see beyond that scalloped edge, there is also a wall here. We are not proposing any development beyond that, except for some minor regrading to redirect some stormwater, which I'll get into. There's another small pocket wetland over to the west, and then the coastal feature, Quannaduck Cove. There's a coastal, I believe it's a tidal wetland associated with the cove on that end. Once again, we are not going into that area. We don't have any work proposed. Any previous work proposed will be superseded by this application, which does not go into that area past this scalloped edge and the stone wall that is there. So, although the lot is about over a little under 2.5 acres, we are significantly restricting the proposed plat site to this square area, more or less square area at the corner between North Main and Route 1. You can see there's a row of arborvitaes that were planted along Route 1 and along North Main Street. There are some relatively mature maple cluster trees in that area, which we intend to, for all intents and purposes, leave those in place unless they're in the way of some paths or access into the site. Generally, the site is a field. It's maintained as such. It grows up and it's maintained periodically and mowed down, including the area which is considered a wetland. But we'll get into what changes we're proposing with respect to that and some other things on the site. I'm going to share the back to the proposed site plan. So you can generally see how the roads curve on the property as they come in. These are access drives. There is an access located off, two accesses actually, off North Main Street. And these driveways will not be paved. They'll be gravel, crushed stone in nature. There'll be an area at the corner of North Main and Stonington Road, Route 1. That is going to be for maintenance only, for parking vehicles temporarily for maintenance activities. The general public will not be allowed to park there. All these locations will be gated, and only the southerly access will be allowed for the general public to enter. That gravel road generally follows the contour of the land and then terminates at a little turnaround area in the northwest corner of the lot, closest to Route 1. There's a series of, beyond that, there's a series of walking paths. Those will remain grass. Not planning on changing the surface there. They'll just be maintained a little bit differently, cut shorter, and those areas will be for paths and little areas for gathering areas that are necessary for small gatherings, for burials and the like. So, but by and large, the site will remain the same type of surface, this grass, very pastoral, as Attorney Sweeney referenced, grassy that's periodically mowed and maintained. The stormwater from the site generally goes from the northeast down to the southwest and does end up in this small wetland, pocket wetland down here adjacent to the neighboring property. When we started this process, the Cemetery Association was very sensitive to the neighboring property to the south. We spoke with those neighbors and heard their concerns, and they were concerned about water migrating off of this site onto theirs. And they have a garage down in that, right off the corner of this, where this wetland is. They have had history of, concerns of water getting out into the property. So we've done a couple things to work with the neighbors. We gladly did so. One, we're going to make sure this wetland is no longer mowed. It's going to be able to revegetate naturally and will remain undisturbed. There's a buffer that we've imposed. I believe it's 15 feet or 10-foot buffer, excuse me. And we'll place some trees along that. That's the delineation of where that buffer, and that will also remain undisturbed. Furthermore, we're going to be putting some trees along the property line here. Try to zoom in here a little bit so you can see it. And a slight berm so that water doesn't bleed through onto the neighboring property. Additionally, we are going to go, there's a small portion of the property which we are going onto beyond that scalloped edge, which represents the edge of vegetation, over the wall, to do some minor regrading just to make sure we redirect that stormwater past the existing garage and that it gets down further into the site and then out to the cove. So we're trying to make sure we ameliorate any issues, potential issues that water could bleed through by picking up, letting it sit in that area, adding some vegetation to help with that uptake of water, letting that area remain unmowed, and then any type of overflow that doesn't sit in that area and infiltrate during the wetter seasons and during the high intensity storm events has a path to get down and away from the neighboring property and down to the cove. And once it gets past there, it does start to channelize a little bit and then spread out and head back out, just as it does today. I mean, it does somewhat come onto the neighbor's property, but it does eventually end up in the same ultimate discharge location. We did some site testing as far as test holes on this site to determine depth to ledge and groundwater. You can see on this map the areas that are a single hatch, just a one-line hatch. Those are the areas that we believe that we can do full depth burials. You can see some of the test holes which are identified in red. Those are the ones that we had relatively shallow depth to groundwater and ledge, and we anticipate that that portion of the site will be reserved more for cremations, which are shallower burials. Ultimately, the cemetery will manage this. They'll dig a hole to figure out, where that line is. We just did some spot checking. Obviously, didn't want to dig up the whole site. You can see by all the pipes that we stuck out there and how far they're sticking out of the ground that there's relatively shallow depths to ledge. However, the ones in green, we did get greater than 54 inches, and that 54 inches is the magic number in order to get a full depth, full casket burial. So this will be a combination of such, and the higher ledge profiles were more on the westerly portion of the site. But as Attorney Sweeney had referenced, all of the burials will be sealed, appropriately done, and we should not have any concerns with making sure that these can get in effectively with respect to ledge or groundwater. The site's not in any flood zones. We're outside of those concerns. We fully intend to have the appropriate erosion controls on the site, although the disturbance shall be minimal. But we will need to get in the access roads, do the plantings around the wetlands areas. But generally, we're trying to keep the impact and the disturbance very minimal under this proposal. When the Cemetery Association brought me this project, they showed me the previous plan they had proposed, and they wanted to reduce it and downplay not as much development and really keep it functional, but also keep that rural and pastoral feel to it. I believe that covers most of them. Bill did reference the crosswalk as far as parking and getting continuity between the other cemetery property for access and to make sure that folks can go back and forth, and if there's parking that's needed, that'll take place on the other, in the main cemetery. Although there is, some areas for visitors to park along here, albeit it's minimal. So, with that, is there anything else
No,
to cover, or?
Yeah, I think just in conclusion tonight, obviously we're looking for site plan approval. We're looking for action on the coastal site plan. We have those requested, what I think are very reasonable waivers. The 2005 special permit is still in effect. Tonight is really about just reapproving a revised plan, a plan that's much more modest, doesn't include 3 feet of fill over the majority of the site, but actually works with the land as it's currently shaped and takes into account the actual carrying capacity of the property. I think it's a much more sensible plan. It's a much more modest plan. It's one that's going to fit better into the community, and we're really excited. Hopefully that we can get approval tonight so that the Cemetery Association can move forward and begin the development and the offering of plots on this property in the near future. So thank you for your time. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
So I'd like to clarify that under zoning context, it says this proposal shows no cemetery use or site disturbance with the exception of a walking trail and benches for public access. I'd like to clarify that the exception of a walking trail and bench for public access should be removed from the staff report because that's not what they're proposing tonight, so.
Thank you. No other comments?
Nope.
Or staff reports? Okay. Any questions from the commission?
I have 2.
Please.
3. Let's go with 3. Do you need a permit from Ledge Light at all for a cemetery?
No. So the cemeteries are governed under DPH regulations.
Okay.
And there are specific rules about green burials. And if you remember from my testimony, we are not doing green burials. There's actually exemptions for existing cemeteries, but if you were to start a new cemetery and you had green burials, which are unlined or unvaulted, there are some separation requirements, but provided that you provide those liners or vaults, no, there aren't any requirements other than the regulations governing cemeteries. And those have a lot to do, quite frankly, with management and finances of cemetery associations more than anything else. But no, as long as we use liners, there really are very, very limited regulations here in the state of Connecticut.
And you're not allowing any, big, not crypts, what do they call them? Yeah, mausoleums.
Mausoleums.
No, that's clearly something of
They
the
are
past,
outside.
and there are places that have done that. This is not that at all. In fact, all of us are subsurface interments, and again, we will have coffins and cremation vessels. The idea here is that when you drive by this, you'll have to really look carefully to know that this isn't the same agricultural field that you've always seen there. That's really important to the association to keep that look. So that, no, there are no buildings or above-ground mausoleums proposed. That's not in the plan whatsoever.
And one last question about the wetlands. So it's mowed now, right? And you went to wetlands, you got people, did they mention anything like going in and planting wetland species in there as or just grow naturally to avoid invasives? Can you do that? Can you ask them to do that, or would you have to go to wetlands to be able to do that?
mean, the
This is some actual,
jurisdiction.
like, wetland vegetation
Yeah.
planted to make sure that you're not just gonna get a bunch of invasive.
Yeah, so there is no condition on our wetland permit for that. It's obviously the wetlands permit's jurisdiction. One of the things that we were intending to do was to allow basically that to go natural. Obviously, invasives are an issue throughout this area, but that's not something that was discussed in our wetland permit. In fact, we've been basically mowing historically that. The idea is let that regenerate and let that go back into more wild and natural function. And then in doing so, we created a thicker buffer as well and privacy screen to the neighbor.
I'm just surprised that they didn't actually ask you to put it back to the wetlands.
Yeah,
That
I think-
they would naturally.
If you go back to like the 1934 aerial photo, which I did, which is the oldest photos we have, it was mowed, it looks like it was mowed in 1934. So it probably was mowed before that as well. It's been a very long time since that has been natural in any form. But again, we have
It's
a,
not our purview, and I would be surprised wetlands.
Anyone else?
Engineer did mention something about a planting plan that provides for grass or vegetation.
In the wetlands.
In the vegetated swale.
That's not in the wetlands.
Okay.
I have one question. Low-impact design has been in the forefront, really, of every review that we've seen in all the recent applications. Were there any low-impact design requirements or WQV requirements associated with this application? And how are they fulfilled?
Yeah, prior to finalizing our plans, I did meet with the town engineers, and they felt that because of the expansive field areas that were beyond the gravel driveways that were being proposed, those act as an LID technology where you're getting, they call them qualified pervious areas, where you're getting enough dispersion of the stormwater over the grass field areas where the town engineers felt that this was such a low impact that that would take care of the best management practices for this site, as well as the the additional plantings in the wetlands also helped. So, yep. So we did that. I think the town engineer had one comment. He wanted a little bit more detail on the swale that we were proposing, which we have no problem with providing. Thank you.
we have looked at the, yeah, I would just say that we also looked at the proposed conditions of approval or stipulations of approval. We have no objection to them.
You know, no one gets a chance, the public does not get a chance to speak in these.
I understand.
Did you want any other member of your team to speak at all?
I don't think it's necessary unless anybody's really pressed to say anything. We appreciate your time, and we do know you have some other public hearings tonight. We're very sensitive to your timing.
I know you have some esteemed guests here tonight, some law firm. Okay. If there are no other questions and no other comments from the staff, no, your presentation is concluded. What's the commission's pleasure on the application of Stonington Cemetery Association?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve both the site plan application and the coastal area management application and the waivers that were requested, along with the following 5 stipulations. Number 1, the applicant shall address the outstanding comments to the satisfaction of the town engineer and town planner. Number 2, any proposed alterations or modifications to the approved site plan as a result of comments from the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, CTD, shall be subject to review and approval by the town engineer, town planner, and commission as necessary. Number 3, final plan shall be reviewed to the satisfaction of the town engineer and town planner. Number 4, final plan shall be signed by the commission and recorded in the town's land evidence records. And number 5, the applicant shall post an erosion and sedimentation control bond prior to the issuance of a zoning permit. The bond shall be either in the form of a certified check or a revocable letter of credit meeting the requirements of ZR 15.4.3. The bond amount shall be established by the town engineer after an estimate of the cost of installing and maintaining appropriate erosion and sedimentation control measures is provided by the applicant and approved by the town engineer. Work shall remain bonded for a minimum of 1 year from the date of zoning compliance.
Motion to approve the CAM management review, the site plan review application, and the waivers by Ryan, 5 conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, both. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair abstains. Thank you, Counselor. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on now to public hearings. The first of which is an item that was first heard at our March 3rd meeting, and we need a motion to take it off of the table.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to reopen the public hearings for PZ 25572C, Mystic Apartments 3, and PZ 255SBA, Mystic Apartments 3, those are both combined. I make a motion to reopen the hearing for both.
Motion made and seconded to reopen the hearing for both. You do intend to leave this combined, Counselor? The applications? Did you hear me? Motion made and seconded to open the public hearing. Everyone, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair abstains. The public hearing is open. I mentioned you do want to leave these as combined, correct? Yes. Okay, thank you, Tony. The chair is yours, sir. Ted, I'm just going to ask you to speak as loudly as you can so that not only the audience can hear, but we can hear as well. I'm sorry to have to do that.
This technology is nice when it works. Well, tonight, Mr. Chairman, you've got just a few of us to hear from. Basically, we're not going to go over plowed ground. I'd like to start with Suzanne Rigby Shore, who's a landscape architect with SLR Consulting Engineers, with regard to the planting on the property and the berm and along Jerry Brown Road.
Thank you, much appreciated.
Thank you.
Should I introduce myself for the record again? Okay. My name is Suzanne Shore. I'm a licensed landscape architect in the state of Connecticut. I work for SLR Consulting, and I prepared the planting plan and graphics that you'll see tonight. And we're specifically going to address the comments that we heard at last month's meeting about the sparseness and lack of diversity of planting along Jerry Brown Road and the berm in question. What we've done now is try to establish a stronger presence, providing some more variety, balancing visual aesthetics, and introducing ecological value for more healthy rehabilitation and diversity along the landscape fronting Jerry Brown Road. We have a mix of evergreen, shade, and understory flowering trees and large shrubs to dot the landscape, and they're placed in groupings that will provide color and interest throughout the year. So we have flowering species that are native, such as flowering dogwood, Cheonanthus, chokecherry, which is a native cherry tree, amelanchier, and sassafras, and those will be blended with evergreen species, including eastern red cedar, white spruce, and Norway spruce. And for the shade trees, we have a mix of pin oak, green, sugar maple, the Green Mountain sugar maple, hop hornbeam, and red maple October glory. So we think that by dotting the landscape and breaking up the mass of the berm by having landscape planted at different elevations, as you're driving by, your view will be, a little more diverse, and you'll have your overstory and understory flowering trees and evergreens mixed in. The existing berm has been overseeded and treated a number of times during the various construction phases. So generally speaking, all of these seed mixes that we've talked about previously, which I'll go over again, on the berm take about 3 years to really establish. The first year they're sending down roots. There'll be a lot of sparse growth. It will look a little sparse to begin with, but In this case, the new seedings will have an overseeding of an annual vine or a bent grass that will take hold quickly, fill in the gaps, and then as the warm season grasses that are proposed for the majority of the berm take root, by the second season they'll start to germinate and fill in, and by year 3 you'll start to get some of the mixes of different grasses and wildflowers that are in the seed mix. Over the majority of the, if you can just go back to that, I'll just to refresh what we're doing. The new berm, the existing berm will be topped with fill from the excavation for the construction site. So that will increase the height of the berm by about 6 feet. The majority of the berm is going to be planted with a New England native warm season grass mix, and those are just native tall grasses that will kind of, just blow in the wind. It'll have that pastoral agricultural look to it. Along the Jerry Brown Road frontage, though, that face of the berm will have a New England conservation wildlife mix. And the only real difference is that about maybe 10% or 15% of that mix has some aster, goldenrod, and some black-eyed Susan and things like that, just to add a little bit of color. But it doesn't take as long to establish and get that color and extra value to it than the wildflower mix that was originally distributed on the berm previously. So we think that this will actually have a quicker impact. And you can go to the next slide, please. Just to show you in section, the original plan that we showed you had a section line in a different location. We're pulling it down to show you what, basically what you might see when you're leaving the housing across the street. So what the view would be like more or less in that location. I don't know if you could zoom in at all on the section, but if not, we're just trying to show there's an existing herbaceous vegetation that would remain in place behind the stone wall for about 25 to 30 feet to the base of the berm. At the base of the berm is where we'll add our evergreen and shade trees with some understory flowering mix. And then midway up the existing berm, we'll supplement that with successional type of species such as the eastern red cedar and the flowering cherry, the native version, not an ornamental, and amelanchier. So those flower between April and June, the different varieties that we've selected, so there'll be kind of an overlap of interest during the springtime, and obviously those will be anchored with the backdrop of the evergreen to help that visually pop. And then the heightened berm will have the conservation mix for those 6 feet, and then from the plateau we'll have the standard warm season grass mix, which has about 6 or 7 different varieties of blue stem and Indian grass and things like that. So that just kind of gives you an idea of how our strategy is to create different levels of interest at your eye level, whether you're driving by or biking by. So there'll be some things to break up that monolithic berm. But they're spaced in a way that will still allow for the necessary maintenance and mowing in order to keep the newly seeded areas mown and addressed as they need to be for the first few growing seasons to establish themselves and manage the invasives that are in place. So they're spaced enough so all of that activity can still take place without interrupting mowing activities. And the disturbed soils, as we plant the new material, any disturbed soils there will be overseeded with a low-grow fescue mix, so it'll cover the area to kind of alleviate any invasives populating, and then that'll just be managed as the new plantings take root. We'll go to the final slide. Showing the existing. Yeah. So the existing condition of the berm right now, this is a pretty lush view. I think they probably came through in September or so, and everything is really full. So there's actually quite a bit of nice-looking vegetation starting to take shape. I know that for years there have been some concerns about the appearance, but like I said, 3 years is usually what you're expecting to see for establishment. And the wildflower mix that's in place right now is starting to get to that point. So I think we're on year 2. We're approaching, we planted last year, so we're in year 2. By next year, it'll really be starting to take shape and look full. And the mugwort is being managed by All Habitat, treated and removed as needed. And that will continue. The next slide is showing a 3 to 5 year vision of what the plantings will look like. So you're seeing a mix of evergreens, shade trees, and flowering trees that will dot the landscape at different elevations, all basically starting back at the bottom of the berm and then going their way up. So we think that it'll have a nice, strong presence within 3 to 5 years that will be noticeable. And that heightened section of the berm at the very top will be planted with the conservation mix, as I mentioned. It's a drought-tolerant native grass mix. So we're introducing 34 new plantings that I think are appropriate as kind of a naturalized placement to kind of reflect just random growth that happens in old fields. And you get the junipers and those choke cherries and things like that kind of sprout up naturally over time in old farmland. So that's the kind of look that we're trying to replicate, something that's not too formal, but is, has species that are, seen everywhere in the surrounding area. So we think that will blend into the landscape and create a natural look over time.
Questions of the landscape?
If you have any
architect?
questions, I'm going to turn it over to James.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
I know there's some work that's going to be done in terms of raising the height of the berm, and some of these, wildflower mixes, et cetera, so it takes several years to
Yeah.
establish.
Right.
In the meantime, the mugwort is getting in there. So is that, treatment of the mugwort going to continue? If there's new soil dumped on top, are we going to see, more opportunities for the mugwort to get in? Is that, how is that going to work with the new
Well,
fill added?
if the new soil is placed 6 feet on top of the existing, the mugwort shouldn't be coming up through that, but the all habitat protocol will still be followed, so they'll be spot treating if they need to. But the new plant mix, the new seed mix that we're recommending is a conservation mix. It's a more simple mix of just tall grasses. It's not the wildflower mix is the one that
Yeah.
was a little problematic because it did take a little bit longer and it was disturbed more often as different phases of work were being done. So when this gets planted, it will be properly mulched with straw mulch. It will be properly irrigated and managed while it's being placed down to keep an eye on that to avoid the mugwort from taking over.
Any other questions?
Can I comment?
Yeah, sure.
I just want to comment on this because I drive by this often and I see how bare it is, and this is going to be, I think this is beautiful. So I just wanted to comment on it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just a couple of questions. Can you go back to the cross-section? Could you explain how you're raising it 6 feet? And are you going to reslope the I guess it would be the west face? Is that going to be disturbed at all?
The plateau right now ends at elevation 101,
Yeah?
so we'll just taper at a 4.
Okay, so you'll narrow the top.
It'll narrow the top.
So you'll
yes.
continue the
So
slope.
it'll just be placed and continue the slope, and
Okay.
so it'll remain a gentle slope.
And is there any plan to place topsoil on the areas that are all scoured on the west face of the back? Now, I don't know how you get anything to grow there.
Actually,
Any seed that was placed there is long gone.
Yeah, I believe that topsoil is expected to be placed on this, but I would also like to say that these seed mixes are meant to be put on very depleted soils. Some of these, they don't actually thrive as much in rich organic topsoil as you would expect. But I mean, we can have the soil tested just to get a nutrient profile, just to make sure we get the right blend when we.
I don't know how you stop the erosion though. I mean, it's scoured.
The erosion if you have a 4-to-1 slope, there should not be any erosion unless
There
it's
is,
steeper
though.
than that. But if there is, those areas can be spot treated for
They
sure.
have to be repaired.
Yeah, I mean, we could put jute mesh and overseed with that, and the jute
That
mesh will
would
hold it
be
back, and
appropriate,
that
I
would
think,
definitely
for
be
those areas.
something.
Can that be added to the plans?
It can be added to the plans in the specific areas where we're
It can
seeing
be a
the
note.
erosion.
It can be a note.
Yeah, I
Those
think-
areas should be assessed and
Yeah. I wouldn't
treated.
recommend jute meshing the entire berm because of the large area, and the gentleness of the slope should not require it, but it is something that we can keep an eye on and
I'm
make sure.
just telling you what I've seen with my eyes.
Yeah,
and
I
it's,
understand, yeah.
It is that way.
Yeah. With the
And also
overs-
the seed mix that you're referring to, is that on the plans?
It is on the plans that we provided to you the other week, the
is the specific mix on the
Yes,
plan.
yeah, the species are listed there, but I just wanted to add one more point, that we will have an overseeding of annual rye, which pops up within a couple of
Oh, great.
days.
That's
So the
very-
overseeding of the annual rye or the bentgrass will help to cover and stabilize the soils before the germination of the taller grass, which requires more root growth. So
This
that's
plan was very helpful. Thank you. Very helpful. One other question. Were you asked to assess the rebuilding of the stone walls on the remaining frontage at all?
No, I think James who speaks to that.
Okay. Thank you. Back to you, Council. Ted, I can't hear you. I'm sorry. You have to speak a little louder.
Good evening. My name is James Cowan. I'm a registered soil scientist, professional wetland scientist, and landscape designer, and I've been involved with this site and project since 2010. So this is the final phase.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. So I was asked to assess the condition of the stone walls and make some recommendations. The wall in front of the berm, which has been shown in a number of the slides, was upgraded or rebuilt as a laid wall to mirror the wall on Stone Ridge across the street. And that whole area was an area that had been proposed to be disturbed with the development of the berm, the stormwater basin and so forth. So that was an active area. And as you may know, that was a construction entrance during the first, at least the first phase, maybe the first and second phase. So, and the one, so that stone wall was, became a laid wall, which is more of a finished masonry type wall, and it was installed in an area that was pretty much meadow, so it was relatively easy to install and visible. To the east and west, those existing walls are what we call a throne wall, which is an agricultural condition when farm fields are cleared, the stones are piled up and in some cases thrown or stacked, and so they're more informal type walls, and so that's what we have to the east and west. Those walls are also heavily vegetated with vines and trees and shrubs right up to the edge. I might mention that the stone wall is pretty much right on the boundary between the town right-of-way and the property. So one side of the wall is town, the other side of the wall is part of the property. Those throne walls are also not uniform. They vary in height, they vary in width, and part of that is there are two main wetlands, actually two main wetlands just on the inside the wall. And in those areas, the wall is very low because it's pretty steep down into the wetland, and it wouldn't be practical to have a high wall. And in fact, in some cases, those walls, some of the stones have fallen into the wetland.
Is that to the north or to the south of where the land, let's call it the landscape wall was built?
Actually, if you put up one of the maps, I think it might be the first map. Yeah, first map shows the wetlands. So this is the wetland furthest to the east, and then we have the break in the wall where the farmhouse was, and where you could see in the berm planting there was an existing Norway spruce, a mature Norway spruce. That's kind of the feature as you look across the street, as you come in from Pequot's Road, you see that specimen tree. So this is one of the main wetlands. And then you have, going west, you have the landscape wall, which is west of the former farmhouse, which is shown there, but has since been demolished. So up to the point where the wall crosses, there's a north-south wall. Between that and the farmhouse is where the landscape wall was installed. If you go further west, then you have 2 more wetlands. And also the other aspect is it drops off. You're on a fairly steep slope in some cases. And the walls also have some breaks in them. One, probably the most notable one, is furthest to the west. And it's a very steep area, and there was never a wall feasible to be built in that area because it's so steep. So there's a substantial break of the wall at that point. While we have this, is it this slide or the other one that shows the open space? All right, this one shows the full development. The other aspect in the assessment was the throne wall areas were all intended to be conservation areas, to not be disturbed. And so there was no intention to do anything to the walls, just to allow them to be and allow the vines and so forth to overgrow to provide habitat for wildlife and some buffering for that conservation area. This is a good one to end on. In terms of the recommendations, since the east and west sections of wall, the throne walls, are in conservation easement areas, the recommendation is to do minimal stabilization where needed, and also avoid areas in the wetland and upland review area of the wetlands, to leave those pretty much as they are. So I would call it a targeted stabilization. And the 2 areas that I think are most suitable for that, actually the map is helpful, are the areas marked in red. Between the driveway, well, the entrance has also been upgraded and stabilized, but this section here is pretty much all in upland review area. But if you go further to the west towards the where the farmhouse was, where the Norway maple or Norway spruce is, that section of wall is not in an upland review area, and I would recommend modest stabilization of that area, and particularly at the end, kind of breaks out into the field to sort of have a more finished look at that end. And also, the same thing is true at the far west, which is really close to the entrance to the healthcare facility. That area is also, as it flattens out, the wall is fairly low, and there's an opportunity there to stabilize and to, in a modest way that would not have any effect on the wetland. So, in summary, the existing walls are largely historic throne walls, and they're located in environmentally sensitive conservation areas where we did not intend any significant disturbance. And so we would propose selective stabilization.
We can't hear anything back here.
sorry about that. We would recommend.
That's really our fault, not his. I apologize. I'm not sure what's wrong with this, but it was set up and it didn't work when we got here. Would ask that anybody that can hear is welcome to sit at this other table. And if you could, just speak up as best you can.
Okay, I'll try to speak out of both sides.
That's better. That's better now. Thank you.
Okay.
I think we've heard your presentation. Thank you for that. It is helpful.
Okay.
You know, defining that they're in conservation areas, steep slopes, and wetlands areas was missing from the last presentation. So that's been clarified by the maps in your presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions?
Questions from the commission? Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim.
Back to you, Council.
Finally, Mr. Chairman, I submitted a brief outlining how I believe this development fits precisely where the GDD zone was intended. It's when I came across a term that I don't use very often. It was usually we're starting with a blank slate. But this is the most precise infill development that I've seen in a very long time. We were left with a small portion of the master plan that was designed originally for the second medical facility. The state of Connecticut Health Department would not issue a certificate of need for that second medical facility. Therefore, an infill proposal is what we're bringing before you tonight to instead of the medical facility, something that complements what's already there, which is the two rental apartment projects, Harbor Heights 1 and Harbor Heights 2, and the 50-unit condominium townhouse development on the east side of the development. We think this 44-unit rental townhouses is a perfect infill for the remainder of this site. It's not too big, it's not too small, it's complementary to what's already there. It's in line with the town of Stonington's plan of conservation and development, with the state of Connecticut recently passed statute for promoting housing growth, specifically what they term middle housing, which is duplexes, townhouses, and things of that nature, which is exactly what we're proposing here. Mr. Latazori has shown you correspondence from the lender, which has indicated that they will finance this project, as well as a housing study that the lender commissioned showing that this type of housing is what is needed and wanted in this particular location. You will remember that one of the major features of the GDD zone was the 50% open space, 50% of the 75 acres of the entire parcel was set aside as open space. The Conservation Commission at the meeting the last meeting I attended was very careful, and the chairman was also very careful to note that we're not impinging on that 50% of the parcel set aside for open space. The open space is located in such a way that it provides connectivity to adjacent parcels, as well as along Jerry Brown Road, keeping the open feel of what Jerry Brown Road was when it was the Perkins Farm. Nobody wants to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and milk cows 3 times a day these days. But we're trying as best we can to maintain the feel of fields along Jerry Brown Road. And I always like to listen to Suzanne's discussion about the landscaping, because she does it better than anybody I've heard in a long time, about maintaining, that feel for the fields along Jerry Brown Road. And that's basically a summation of the brief that I prepared and submitted, as well as the lender's letter and the housing analysis prepared for that lender. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Councilor. Questions from the commission?
Yes, I have one. Perhaps I missed it, maybe it's part of your brief, but I know we had asked last time for the applicant to look into the possibility of including some affordable housing, any other options on that. So,
The problem with affordable housing is one affordable unit does nobody any good. 10% might do some good, but 10% of 44-unit development will kill it. Nothing will happen. And the reason I emphasize the infill nature of this development is if you want affordable housing, you're going to have 400, 500, or 600 units of market rate housing to support the 40, 50, or 60 units of residential housing. I have never floated a proposal such as that as a scare tactic. I don't do that. I've not done this here tonight. I've never proposed to do it, and I don't propose to start now. But the only way to get an affordable housing component here would be not infill, but to take away from the 50% open space. There's lots of land left. There's 35 acres left. Now, could you put 600 units there? Yeah, you probably could. And maybe if you did 600 units there, you could allocate 10% of those to affordable. Nobody wants that. It's not compatible with the neighborhood. It's not compatible with the 300 units of housing that's already built there. And it's really not compatible with the Stone Ridge across the street. Certainly, it's not compatible with the residential units farther along Jerry Brown Road. Just would
Is this
not
the
be-
last phase of
Say
this
again?
residential development?
I'm sorry, Mr.
Is
President.
this the last phase of this residential development?
This is the last phase. We don't
It's
have
complete.
any more land left to develop. Just this
We
one
won't be coming
small-
back for any more residential.
Nope, we're not coming back. We don't want to develop the.
We know you can't disturb the 50% open space. We're very much aware of that.
We don't want to touch the 50% open space. Every time I say that out loud, I smile to myself because David's father, David Latazori Sr., every time I said they want 35 acres of open space, he just about, his blood pressure would go through the roof. His generation, of development along Route 91 was not a 50% open space, kind of development he was used to. But this is what goes, what fits in Stonington, what fits along Jerry Brown Road is a 50% open space. It's just not compatible with another 4, 5, or 600 units, of housing that might support an affordable component. 44-unit infill will not.
I think what that speaks to, Ted, is perhaps this conversation should have happened when the zone change was done and not at this last phase of the development. And it's unfortunate that that didn't take place, but I think we have to raise the question because, the housing situation with regard to affordable, and this isn't Section 8 housing that we're asking for, this is affordable housing that in order to qualify for, two people have to be working in a household to even afford a unit like that. But it's unfortunate this conversation didn't take place earlier in the project. And I understand your point. Thank you, Ryan, for raising it. Any other questions from the commission? Is there any staff reports?
I would just like to clarify in the staff report for the site plan application that you guys don't have an additional 65 days to decide. You guys pretty much have to decide by tonight unless the applicant grants a extension.
But that was different than what I had seen. I thought.
Yeah, I
I
thought we
thought
had
we'd seen
to.
till June
June
22nd.
He made a mistake on that one. He texted me to
Oh,
verify that.
Okay, then okay. Do we have public comment? Since it brings up-
Yeah, no problem. I know we'll move to that.
Oh,
I just want to make sure there's no other questions from the commission before we. Mr. Morrison, no questions? Ladies, no questions? Okay. Do we have a sign-up sheet out there for,
I couldn't find it, Mr. Chair. Mr. Sign up.
this is an opportunity for the public to speak, and we'll read the names off the list for anyone that wishes to speak. If you haven't put your name on the list, you'll still be allowed to speak. Okay. All right. Okay, so we'll start out with Stuart Cole. Is this from the last meeting? Maybe.
There's some names, like the first four, that might have been from last meeting.
okay. So then I think that.
It's this one. Okay, Liz Stern.
Good evening. For the record, I'm Liz Stern.
Good evening.
Good evening. I live at 48 Lords Hill Road. I've been a member of this community for 47 years. I have a prepared statement, but before I read the prepared statement, I congratulate you on your presentation tonight. It was thorough, it was encouraging, but I do think that some of the statements that were made regarding affordability and what infill is intended for and the growth plan was something I'd like to discuss at another date, because I think those terms that were just used, and especially the Connecticut's housing growth plan, did not talk to luxury apartments. And that's such a bigger discussion than we have time for tonight. I thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here tonight to speak about the proposed 44-unit luxury development on the Perkins Farm property. I want to acknowledge the developer's continued investment in this site, but I also think it's important to recognize a pattern. This will be yet another luxury development on this property. At the same time, our town is in the middle of a housing crisis. And for many people, the crisis is no longer abstract. It is personal. People who work here, who grew up here, who want to stay here, are being priced out. They're being forced to leave the community they call home. So the question we should be asking tonight is, who are we building this town for? Because right now, it feels like we're only building for those who can afford luxury. That's why I'm asking, respectfully and strongly, that this project include affordable housing. A neighboring town has already set a clear and reasonable standard. Developments of 10 or more units must include 10% affordable housing. In this case, that would mean only 4 or 5 units out of the 44. That is not an unreasonable ask. I will not stop, it will not stop this project. It will make a real difference. Without it, we are continuing a trend that deepens the divide in this community. With it, we take a small but meaningful step toward keeping Stonington a place where people of different incomes can live, not just work or visit. I urge the Commission to use this moment and this project to be part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Can all written prepared statements be submitted to me?
It's pretty messy.
It's okay, we'll take it.
You did a good job reading it.
Yeah, I know, but it's not,
That's
it's
okay.
just scribbled
That
notes.
is all right.
We'll make it done. Thank you, Liz. Karen Stone? Sorry if I murdered your name.
That's just right. I'm Karen Stone, and I am the chairman of the board of the Dennis Seapost Nature Center, and I came to speak on behalf of the Perkins Farm Development. Our mission is to connect the community to nature, and the Perkins Farm community has reached out to us and invited us into the community to teach them about the natural world. And we brought animals and educated the people of the community about the nature center and their surrounding natural habitats. We do applaud the Perkins Farm for providing half of their space to natural habitat, and we just support their support of the natural world.
Thank you very much, Karen. Eugene? I can't, just sat down.
Yeah, Gene Winchester.
Mr. Winchester? Good evening, sir.
Microphone wasn't working.
No, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is
Thank you
Eugene
for joining us.
Winchester. I'm sorry.
Thank you for joining us.
I live in Mystic. I'm a member of the Board of Finance, but I'm speaking strictly as a private citizen and a taxpayer. I've known David Latizori for a long time, and I have the highest regard for him. I don't often speak in superlatives, but he's an extraordinary individual, and he's done an extraordinary job at Perkins Farm. The hospital medical office building has been a tremendous boon to the community. We've used it often, more often than I would like. It's a beautiful building, and it's much nicer than many other medical office buildings. We've toured his apartments, and in fact, my wife and I have spoken with him about whether, when it's time to downsize, whether we would be interested in one of his townhouses.
A little more, I know folks in the back can't hear you, I apologize.
Oh, I'm
sorry. You just speak up or turn.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, maybe stand sideways.
That'd be
You
great.
stand
Yeah, that'd be
sideways.
great. And speak as loud as you can, please.
And
That's
anyone
better.
who looks closely at what he's done will notice the solar panels, will notice his attention to detail, will notice his commitment to the flora and fauna of the community and to native species. So he really has done an amazing job, and we honor it, and I hope others in the community will as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? Just state your name if you would, please, and address.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Rob Simmons, 268 North Main Street, Stonington. I'm sorry I didn't sign up.
Say your name. Thank you for being here.
Yes, a pleasure. And let me start by thanking everybody here. Oh my gosh, it's awfully hard to hear a damn thing. I guess it's because I'm so old. But then the machines aren't working. That's a damn shame because it is hard to hear. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, yes.
maybe you don't want to, but here I am. I'm here to support David Latizori and his Mystic Apartments number 3 application. I've known him for a long time. He's a resident of Stonington. He attended school here. He came back from pursuing a career outside the town when his father got sick, and he discovered with his father's illness he was going to doctors all over the region. He put 50,000 miles on his car taking care of his dad, who eventually passed away. And just by accident, just by curious coincidence, I had been over at Stone Ridge talking to Ruth Waller, the former town clerk, and also to Dr. Petroselli over there, and they said, what we need here is care for senior citizens under one roof. And why can't we do something like that across the street in that vacant lot? I said, well, who owns it? They said, well, Latizori's own it. So I looked him up and gave him a call. I said, hey, I'm interested to talk to you about that project, and maybe we can do something for geriatric care under one roof. He said, I'm sorry. We've got approval for a subdivision and development, and it's been approved, 27 lots, and we're selling it. We're selling this. I called him on a Wednesday, and he said, we're supposed to sell it on Friday. And that was the approved development on the property back in 2015. I said, holy cow, wait, I think we have a plan for it. I think we can do something with the property. Don't sell it. Give me a chance to introduce you to some people over at Stone Ridge who had opposed previous projects before you sell this. I think we can do something better. And we met with Dr. Petroselli, the late Jason Vincent was the director of development. We met with some people over there, and we came up with a preliminary master plan, which is not what we have there today, but it was a concept. And the concept was we create a project where 50% of the land is set aside for open space, and the buildings are all put over close to I-95. And he talked about the berm earlier. The berm, you can put a berm so there'd be some visual separation, but the open space next to Stone Ridge, which is the most densely populated piece of land in the town of Stonington, I believe. I think we have more people living in Stone Ridge and in that little space than anywhere else that I can think of. So the idea was we put the development away and preserve 50% of the space as open space. The problem with that was the cost of the infrastructure. So we wanted to have the geriatric center. We started, I think, with Yale. They bailed out. Then we went to Hartford Healthcare. They were interested. But to pay for the infrastructure, to pay for the roads, to pay for bring in the water, the sewer, and all the other amenities that you had to have there, you had to have high-end housing. You had to have market rate housing to pay the price. And that eventually got approved, and we went forward with the project. Now, as I understand it, originally there was a plan to build some additional medical facilities on the site that is now being discussed. I think that was correct. But Hartford Healthcare has decided not to do it. So now the question is, what do you do with the remaining piece of property there? This project, I call it a three-legged stool. The 3 legs of the stool. You have to have 3 legs of the stool. One leg of the stool is healthcare, and we've got it. The second leg of the stool is open space, and we have it. Instead of 17% open space, we got 50% open space. And then the third leg of the stool is market rate development for apartments and condos and housing. And the 3 of them together make it work. If any of the 3 were missing, one group or another would not be satisfied. So that's the background that I recall. I've been out of this business for a while, but I certainly appreciate what you do. I know Ben Tamsky's here tonight. He was a distinguished chairman of planning and zoning for quite a few years and years ago. And it's hard work, but I think what David has done here is also special for the town of Stonington. The grand list has to grow. A growing grand list supports the many activities of the town. This is a property that contributes tremendously to the grand list and will continue to do so. And I think it's important that we carry it forward and complete it in this form so that we can continue to have them pay our taxes, which is nice. And I thank you for your time, Mr. Chairman, and I wish you all the best in your deliberations. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak either for or against? Yes, sir. Again, as loud as you can so everyone can appreciate it.
I'll try to speak up a little bit. Can you hear me? Good evening. My name is Ralph Wood. I'm a resident of Stone Ridge and former chair of the Stone Ridge Residents Council. I'm joined in the following remarks tonight by Susan Glass, who is the current chair of the Residents Council at Stone Ridge. Mr. David Larazzotti has been the paragon of a good neighbor to the Stone Ridge Life Plan community. His buildings and landscaping are attractively designed and well maintained, as are the rehabilitated stone wall and huge berm that he provided along his property boundary with Jerry Brown Road, which Stone Ridge borders on the opposite side of the road. His arrangements with the Hartford Healthcare Facility has been nothing short of a boon to many Stone Ridge residents who merely have to cross the street for their medical appointments. And his Phase 2 development did not create any serious increase in the local traffic. Mr. Ladazzori visits Stone Ridge occasionally to share his development plans and progress with residents in our auditorium. He has advised us on his extensive solar energy experience, and he opens a parking area for us when we have parking overflow situations caused by public events in our auditorium. Stone Ridge and Mr. Ladazzori have also developed a cross-marketing understanding in which his facility will become a feeder for residents to the Stone Ridge Life Plan community when their aging needs outgrow what his facility can offer. We already have 2 test cases of this relationship. All in all, Mr. Ladazzori has proven to be a highly desirable neighbor. He has a designer's attention to detail and is a man of his word. We wish him well in his new endeavor that is before this commission tonight for approval. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? I think we have one other individual over here.
Here, does it matter?
If you could stand sideways and project as best you could. Thank you.
Can everyone hear me? My name is Bob Ulrich. I'm a resident at Perkins Reserve. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all tonight. My wife and I moved up here from Old Saybrook in 2021. And I've just retired about 2 years ago out of the engineering and construction business. Not in apartment buildings, but infrastructure. I've worked with my share of developers. I've bought homes from developers. Some are good, some are bad. I just going to echo what was just said about Mr. Ladazzori. I also served for the last 2 years on our HOA board. I'm here tonight as a resident, not representing the entire community. Just a few things as a note. He has been a superb neighbor. We're in a townhouse, carriage house community. We've got the 2 apartment buildings up the hill from us. And I got to tell you, when you come up Perkins Farm Drive, what you see is wooden rails, lighting, trees. None of this was in a plan that I ever saw. Okay? And knowing developers, he didn't have to do this. He did it. The community's grateful for it. We constantly call, I won't say constantly, but we call a lot on people that are blowing through stop signs, going a little too fast. When we send an email, we get a response from David or one of his managers at one of the buildings within 12 hours. And that's been a constant over the last couple of years. I also want to note, when he built Enclave, which was the second building, he came to us, met with our HOA board, there's 3 of us, and then invited the entire community to come look at all the plans. We had some people for, some people against, but the thing that really impressed me is after making his presentation, he sat down with probably 10 or 12 homeowners who had questions about everything. And he gave us honest answers. Yep, there's going to be construction coming up this way. You can't get around that. You know, we had people that, I don't want construction, I want the development, I don't want to see it. We got real answers. He's worked with us as a partner. And the final thing I will say, there's a lot more amenities. So before I say my final piece, have a walking trail that goes from our neighborhood down into Hartford Healthcare. I walk Hartford Healthcare 8 laps every day. That's 2 miles. So when I saw the construction going on the Enclave, what I saw was a neat and safe construction site. Locked up when it was supposed to be locked up, cleaned almost every day. I may not be in the apartment business, but I do know what a construction site looks like. And I know what a clean one and a secure one. That's really critical and it's important. David has been an excellent neighbor to us, and I don't always see that, so I speak in support of him as well as this new development. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
Do you guys want this, or?
Yes, please.
Anyone else? Counselor, any further comment? Wish any rebuttal?
I have one mild piece of rebuttal, Mr. Chairman. The first speaker characterized what we're talking about tonight on several occasions as luxury housing. Luxury housing. We don't want luxury housing. What David does is he provides high-quality construction, high-quality amenities. I'll give you an example. Elevators. There are elevators in both Harbor Heights 1, Harbor Heights 2, and proposed for this Harbor Heights 3. One of the target audiences for these apartments are people who are empty nesters, getting along in life, don't want the house anymore, but they don't want to climb 3 stories worth of stairs either. An elevator in an apartment like that is really not a luxury for somebody like me, for instance. David uses himself as a young professional. I can't do that anymore, but I'm the kind of guy who might sell my house and want to go to one of the apartments at Harbor Heights. I would definitely need an elevator to get from the ground floor to my upper floor apartment. That would not be a luxury item for me, it would be a necessity. That's my only comment on luxury housing.
Anyone else wish
Yes,
to speak?
may I?
You'll get a chance for rebuttal. First time speaker, David.
Hi, David Latazori, the owner of the Perkins Farm campus and also the applicant. I just want to kind of follow up on some of the points that I made in our last hearing and provide a little bit of perspective because I feel that's really important. This project first started in 2015, but it really started 2 years prior to that, where I spent 2 years knocking on doors, meeting with neighbors, meeting with business leaders, to see if there was something better than a 36-lot subdivision with 15% open space. And what I came up with was a mixed-use development plan with residential centered around high-quality medical care. The difficulty is that everyone wanted to preserve the green space along Jerry Brown Road, preserve 50% of the property as open space. Now, not just any type of open space is valuable, but what's most valuable is continuous open space. And I've been able to preserve a mile of Jerry Brown Road as almost continuous open space. Now, the most developable portion of this site used to be the old hayfield right opposite Pequot Seapost. And that would have been the most natural place to locate the development. But in order to get approval from this town and to get the encouragement that I've gotten over the last decade, I had to move all of the development adjacent to I-95. And that did a few things. Number one, it allowed over 50% of the property to be preserved as open space. That open space was continuous. And it allowed us to hide all of the development along I-95. Now, that's not desirable for my residents because they're right against a highway. I'd rather have them on Jerry Brown Road. But all of this came at a cost. And originally, I was told in Stonington that no one wanted apartments here. We do not want apartments. It attracts a certain type of people. And I said, well, apartments offer a different type of flexible housing that wasn't available in town. We were actually one of the first larger apartment complexes. And the way to make it work, because that building right there subsidized the infrastructure for the entire site. Because as I mentioned, it cost around $2.5 million to bring in sewer up from Jerry Brown Road, to bring in three-phase electrical over from Eversource along public roads. We also brought in a 3,500 linear foot water line, and we also brought in a 3,500 foot linear electrical line. And then I constructed around 4,000 feet of roads that originally under the original 36 lot subdivision would have been public roads, and now they're private roads. Public road would have been taken care of by the town, and the private roads I preserve and pay for out of the development. So it was a very expensive proposition to do all this. And I wish the affordability concept had come up earlier, because maybe at the time there weren't different financing opportunities available. Now there's slightly a bit more. But I wish those opportunities were available a decade ago. I wish these conversations happened a decade ago. But the problem is, to maintain the same level of fit and finish, I've had to spend even more money to continue this campus. For the last phase, I developed a $1.5 million water pump station. Now, because the water pump station isn't located on the building lot, because it had to be close to the road, I had to pay for that out of personal funds. That was not paid for by a mortgage. As I mentioned in my last at our last hearing, I met with 7 banks, and 7 local banks denied me financing on this site. And those 7 banks work with Build for CT, which is an affordable housing component, and they wouldn't even finance this site. And the only way I was able to get this all approved creatively is I went to HUD, Housing and Urban Development, which encourages developments of market rate and affordable and all different types of and age-restricted housing in tough-to-build areas. And they give you a 40-year note and a very large mortgage. And that's why this project barely breaks even. It's really more of a retirement account. And I know people don't believe that. But when it costs $7 million to bring infrastructure to the front door, that's expensive. And everyone thinks the developer is able to make these decisions. It's not me, it's the bank. And so the main cost of preserving that open space, which was the primary objective of the Greenway Development District adopted in 2016, was to preserve 50% of the property as open space. And I've also made every component of this site a nationally green recognized building. That doesn't include the solar panels. We're talking about how it's constructed, the insulation. We're talking about Energy Star savings. I did also put solar panels on this building, so I actually have the greenest campus in town. And unfortunately, this all comes at a cost. And if I had been able to plan for it a decade ago, I know we could have made it work. And if the town was able to work with me a little bit more to help defer some of these costs, I know we would be able to create a more affordable component. But unfortunately, over the last decade, and this is my 7th time coming in front of this commission, it's just been very difficult to appease everyone. So I've tried to do the best I could with this current proposal. And for me, it's critical to finish this campus because it links Perkins Farm Drive, which is very important because it reduces traffic on Jerry Brown Road substantially. And it's also critical, according to the police department and the fire department, for emergency access. And so that's why I urge the commission to approve this plan.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Yes. Liz?
I am not against this project, and I applaud the finish and harmonious nature of your project. I am not against this project. It is a luxury, and I don't think luxury is a bad word, and I think on March, I don't remember, I think when you first came to this commission, you used the word luxury yourself. So, and I don't think that's a bad word. But I ask one question right now. What percent of the rentals in the enclave and phase 1 are second homes? And you don't have to answer it because I think we all know that it's a fairly significant, there are second homes for people there. And I'm talking not against the project. I'm talking about integration, and I'm talking about looking at opportunities for a variety of people in this town, and I am not against the project. I applaud what you've done so far, and I support the project. But I do think there is room, and I don't think that affordability is what everybody thinks it is, and I would just ask the commission to consider what opportunities we have in our town for a variety of individuals to live. But I want to make sure you understand I'm not against the project. And I also don't think the elevators are luxurious. I think it's about accessibility. So you're talking about accessibility, and I understand that.
But they're expensive.
Yes, I understand that. So, and I also think it's...
You can't have a conversation
No,
back
okay,
and
so
forth.
that's
You have
why
to address the committee.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else wish to speak? Commission have any further questions? Any staff comments? I think the appropriate motion to close the public hearing is in order.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to close this public hearing for the combined applications.
Motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you both. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. The hearing is closed. So we have to make a decision on this evening. Okay. It's unfortunate that the package didn't indicate that. But
May I ask, what should it, to make a decision on this, should it be for the special, should be for the zoning amendments?
can it be included in one motion?
That's what I'm trying to ask. So I need to do it separately, or since they combine the
I know
applications?
Adriana would tell me it's good housekeeping for you guys to do two separate motions.
Do
We
separate?
can do that. I mean, it's because the site plan application is the one that doesn't, let's see here, that has the stipulations, and then the other did not have any stipulations. Is that correct? Okay.
I would like to add a stipulation to the approval list, and that the areas that are require additional stabilization on the existing bank be assessed by the town engineer, and that the plans be modified to include appropriate stabilization measures.
Okay. So I will begin, excuse me, I will begin with the site plan application. So, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the site plan application for the Mystic Apartments 3 LLC with the following 6 stipulations. Number 1, the applicant shall address the outstanding comments to the satisfaction of the town engineer, town planner, and Old Mystic Fire District as applicable. Number 2, any proposed alterations or modifications to the approved site plan as a result of comments from the Connecticut Department of Transportation, CDOT, or Office of the State Traffic Administration, OSTA, shall be subject to review and approval by the town engineer, town planner, and commission as necessary. Number 3, final plan shall be reviewed to the satisfaction of the town engineer and town planner. Number 4, final plan shall be signed by the commission and recorded in the town's land evidence records. Number 5, the applicant shall post an erosion and sedimentation control bond prior to the issuance of a zoning permit. The bond shall be in the form of a certified check or a revocable letter of credit meeting the requirements of ZR 15.4.3. The bond amount shall be established by the town engineer after an estimate of the cost of installing and maintaining appropriate erosion and sedimentation control measures is provided by the applicant and approved by the town engineer. Work shall remain bonded for a minimum of 1 year from the date of zoning compliance. And number 6, that the areas requiring additional stabilization on the berm be reviewed by the town engineer and plans be updated to address those stabilization items as required.
Motion made with 6 conditions regarding site plan approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I'm just going to make a comment that I don't,
Please.
I think by providing 10% affordable housing, which is really only 4 units, it could have been done relatively easily. It wouldn't make or break the project. I don't think that's in our purview. I don't think we can deny it based on that. I just want to comment that
Right.
I do think that when developments of any kind of magnitude like this come in, that we should really think about making 10% of them affordable.
I totally agree with what you're saying, and that was raised at the last meeting, and there was a discussion. On the developer side, this discussion began with the developer 10 years ago before any of us were here. I didn't move to town until 2016. And in fairness, to introduce a condition like this in the final phase when it's all developed I think would be difficult. I think the comments from the audience on affordable housing are all heard. I just think it isn't practical in this last phase to require it, and it wasn't part of the original concept. It wasn't. It didn't have the emphasis on a statewide scale in defense of the developer when this project was conceived. So I do think we have to make an effort on projects that are listed. I know you agree with this.
Yeah, I'd say as a commission, we need to be more cognizant of when developments come in.
And
we need to discuss that, where the planning staff should discuss that early on with the applicant.
Agreed.
Saying that the commission is really trying to move forward, and when they were talking about, I don't know if we can make a rule that everything has to be 10% or anything over a certain number is 10%, but I think that as a commission, we need to be more cognizant of that
Totally agree,
fact.
and well said. Unless there's further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair abstains, motion passes. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the plan of conservation development and the consistency with zoning regulations and the zoning map amendment application for Mystic Apartments 3 LLC Latizori with no stipulations.
Motion made on the second application. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Thank you both. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair abstains, motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commission members.
Okay. Yes, it is. Give the room just a moment to clear. Okay, we'll move forward with public hearing for item C. Ryan, if you would, just read the notice.
Notice for PZ 2607 SPA CRT-1 LLC J. Casey. Site plan application for modifications to previously approved site plan application PZ 2539 SPA plus UPP. Properties are located at 3 Voluntown Road and 3 unaddressed parcels. Pawcatuck M/P/L 18-1-31, 18-1-32, 18-1-32A, 18-1-32B, and 18-1-32C. Properties are located in the NDD zone.
Evening, Council.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members.
We need a motion to open the public. That's okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to open this public hearing for PZ 2607 SPA.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is John Casey. I'm a partner with the law firm of Robinson and Cole, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicants. With me is Matt Bruton from BL Companies, our civil engineer, as well as Mike Leach, Colin Leach, and Phil Biondo representing the applicants. This is a fairly simple, straightforward request. I should have kept count how many times we've been here, but this one is a request pursuant to section 1510 of your zoning regulations, your old zoning regulations, to modify the approved site plan for the Stonington Technology Center to allow, pursuant to section 1322, the reduction in the amount of parking spaces to be developed at the time of building construction from 322 to 260, which is a reduction of 20%. For the record, we submitted our mailing, proof of mailing. That's all in the record. We're here on a site plan at a hearing because in the NDD we always require a hearing. So in case any of the members of the commission were confused about that, this is, let's see. So if we go through the history, just again for everyone, in February 2024 we created this NDD over basically the old movie theater parcel. It was going to allow mixed use residential. Later in July of 2024, we expanded it to these parcels. We call them the Balone parcels at the corner of Voluntown and Liberty Street. And the master plan there called for the medical office building and recreational facility. We also got a phase 1 site plan for 3 of the buildings on the original parcel. Those are under construction if you've been by there. And then December 2025, we amended the master plan to approve the technology center and also get the site plan approved for the technology center. And then just last month, we obtained site plan and groundwater protection permit for phase 2 residential. I should also say we have a groundwater protection permit for the technology center. And then tonight, we're here to make a minor change to the site plan at the technology center. And so with that, I will turn it over to Matt to go through the site plan. I can go
Good evening, everybody. For the record, my name is Matthew Bruton. I'm a professional engineer in the state of Connecticut, employed by BL Companies. Our headquarters is at 355 Research Parkway in Meriden, Connecticut. So I'm just going to show you 2 plans, the one that you saw before, which was previously approved, as John said, and then we'll flip it over and show you what we're looking to do with this modification. So again, this is the Stonington Technology Center in this lower corner with the associated parking around it, with the access drive off the side street here. The zoning regulations called for 321 parking spaces. We showed 322 to comply. If you do this quick flip. Everything is the same in terms of the size of the building, orientation of the building, and the driveway off to Voluntown Road. What we're asking for is that reduction in parking. That is mainly happening up in this area here, with an additional row of parking removed there, and a row of parking moved here as well. That brings it down to 260, which is a reduction of about 62 parking spaces. This does a couple things for us. Obviously, it's reducing impervious area, brings a lot more green space between the future residential use here and the office building. Also provides a lot more green space on the corner where we have that beautiful monument sign. And again, here creates some more space with the future residential along the main road there. Also, guys, increases the landscaping area and does not affect the emergency vehicle circulation on site. They can still access the building and circulate as necessary. The benefit of this too is we're not changing anything else in terms of the stormwater management system. The system that was approved with the original plan, the 322 spaces, is still proposed to be in effect, so that if it does bust at the seams and we need to have that parking in a decade or 20 years from now, the system will accommodate that, so it could be reconstructed later. Yeah, so we think this is kind of the best of both worlds. We get some more green space, reduce impervious, especially in your groundwater protection zone, but it does allow for expansion in the future if that is so necessary. So happy to answer any questions you guys may have, but I think this is kind of a no-nonsense request that would be beneficial.
This actually was discovered, I think, during a meeting. We discovered that, reduced parking was, and it was sort of mutually agreed that you would come back and do this. So I'm actually very pleased to see that instead of the building getting larger or adding additional, impervious area, we're adding pervious area to the site, and that's commendable.
And we think based on, we talked about the number of offices, the number of people who reasonably go to that site, it was overparked. And even looking back at old notes, when Clifton was here, he suggested from the beginning, minimizing, reducing the parking and the whole NDD to the extent we can. And so we think this is
certainly commendable. Thank you for following through. Any other questions from the commission?
No, I just want to reiterate that because at the last hearing, I actually asked if you could do phased parking.
You did.
See if you needed it. And this is basically what you're doing.
Yes.
And so thank you for listening to us. There was way too much parking before.
Yeah. We got it in just under the wire.
There you go. Any other questions? Any staff comments?
Nope.
No, I mean, I could go through your regulations, but I think you understand them. I think this complies with the regulations, and I think it overall, beneficial project. It gives the developers, they're going gangbusters, and then this will really helps them set the palette for that space, so they can get, shovels in the ground and get that building up and occupied.
Kudos to the developer. This is one of the best landscape plans that I've seen in my tenure on this commission. Landscape architect did a wonderful job.
And I also commend you guys because I go over there regularly and see the progress, and you guys are really doing a good job.
So if there are no further questions, and anyone in the audience wish to speak on this application? There's only one of you. I'm sorry. I'll say again, no one else wishes to speak, then I think the appropriate motion to close the public hearing is in order.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to close the public hearing for PZ 2607 SPA LLC, or CRT-1 LLC, J. Casey.
Motion to close, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion passes. What's the commission's pleasure on this application?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve this application, the site plan application, with the following 5 stipulations. Number 1, the applicant shall address the outstanding comments to the satisfaction of the town engineer and town planner as applicable. Number 2, any proposed alterations or modifications to the approved site plan as a result of comments from the Connecticut Department of Transportation, CDOT, or the Office of State Traffic Administration, OSTA, shall be subject to review and approval by the town engineer, town planner, and commission as necessary. Number 3, final plan shall be reviewed to the satisfaction of the town engineer and town planner. Number 4, final plan shall be signed by the commission and recorded in the town's land evidence records. Number 5, the applicant shall post an erosion and sedimentation control bond prior to the issuance of a zoning permit. The bond shall be either in the form of a certified check or a revocable letter of credit meeting the requirements of ZR 15.4.3. The bond amount shall be established by the town engineer after an estimate of the cost of installing and maintaining appropriate erosion and sedimentation control measures is provided by the applicant and approved by the town engineer. Work shall remain bonded for a minimum of 1 year from the date of zoning compliance.
Motion to approve the application of CRT-1 LLC with conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded, thank you both. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair abstains, the motion passes. Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's, is there any applications to be accepted or anything? Nothing on the agenda.
Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn the hearing.
No second required, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion is approved. Hearing
We
is.
got applications for last year, but we didn't get the paper copies.
Oh, yeah, there was.
They were gonna bring the paper copies.
Are these the paper copies also from the last meeting? There were ones that supposed, the other gentleman, I guess he didn't realize they were in that, neither did we.
Because they didn't, at the last meeting.
Yeah.
We didn't get them, they got
We didn't.
emails saying like,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
have
you're
them
right,
for you.
you're right. You know, in defense of the staff, without a development director, without a planner, you know, everybody is doing their level best to keep up with things, but
I'm not saying.
it hasn't been easy.
Sorry.